Hello, guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, you want to learn how to play chess? Okay, in this full guide, I'm going to teach you the basics of chess, how the pieces move, what's the objective of the game, and how you're going to get to say checkmate the next couple of days or weeks, depending on when you would like to start playing against other players. I will also leave my link in the description below so that you can challenge me on chess.com. Obviously, when you do challenge me, just say that you are a beginner, and then we'll just play a friendly game, and then I'll coach you as we go along to on the game and show you where you're making your mistakes after each and every game that we play. So, without wasting your time, let's get into it. Okay, so this is the chessboard. Consists of white pieces, right, and black pieces. Okay, so white is always going to move first. White is always going to make the first move. Black will respond, which means that in the game of chess, white is always attacking, and then black is always defending because black, is responding to whatever white is doing. So what we have here, where these pieces are standing, we have what we call files. So they go from A to H, right? Then going up until the black side is called ranks. So they go from number one to number eight. So this is important to remember so that when you are setting up your chessboard, the black pieces will always be on the eighth rank, and then the white pieces will always be on first rank because white goes first, like I said, and black responds. Right, so there's 64 squares consisting of black and white squares, right? And then this is very important to understand because as you're going to be studying chess, when you go further into studying openings and maybe middle games or twin chess battles, coordinates are very important, right? So if you know the coordinates, it's going to be easy for you to remember the theory and why you've placed pieces on that square, right? Because that square maybe could have a potential attack in the future, and things like that. So these coordinates, it's very important for you to know them, and it's very important to set up the board correctly because otherwise, if you do not set up the board correctly, you might struggle. In fact, for you guys to play the game, the game might not make sense because you might end up maybe putting your queen here. The queen has to the queen of the opposite side has to be on its color square. So you see, like the white queen is on white square, and then the black queen, sorry, is on a black square. Okay, so first pieces that I'm gonna show you are these pieces right here, the front. So these are categorized as the weakest pieces on the board, because they can only move forward and then they capture diagonal. So what happens is that, let's say white plays first, they put on two spaces up into the fourth rank, which that coordinate will be known as E4, right? So now black can also do the same thing, but because this for educational purposes, I want to show you how white then the pawns, how do they capture and how do they move. So the pawns can move two squares or one square when beginning um, the match, right? But after they've moved two squares, they can only move or advance one square after that. Let us say now the white pawn is now faced with uh, the black pawn on the diagonal like this. The black pawn then can choose to capture white pawn diagonally like that, or choose to move forward and go past it, right? Maybe assuming that if the white pawn does also move forward again, right? You can then capture it with this pawn later on. So the simple basics, do not overcomplicate it. That's how the pawns move, right? I'm just gonna go back here. Then what I'm gonna show you is let's start from the outside going in, right? What we have here are rooks, right? Rooks move uh, above the ranks and across the ranks, right? So if there was nothing and no pieces blocking the rook's way, the rook could move in any direction that it wanted to, vertically or horizontally. It cannot move diagonally. So the rook cannot come from this square up until this square right here on c3. So to illustrate, I'm just going to move this pawn 2 times, right? And I'm going to move next pawn 2 times. Now we have given a chance for the rook to come out and move across the diagonal. The rook then cannot jump an opponent's piece, right? Just like here, this piece, or your piece, or the opponent's piece, it cannot jump it. It can only move across or vertically on the file, and only if that file is open. Right. If there is, however, a piece that is on the file that the rook is guarding, or the rank that the rook is guarding, right, then the rook can then choose that piece. Right? I think that's pretty much straightforward. What we're going to move to next is the knight. The knights then, they move in an L formation, right? So what you're going to do is that you're going to count 2 squares going up, and then either left or right is where the knight would end up moving, right? The knight is the only piece on the board that can actually jump an opponent's pieces or its own pieces in order to get to the next square which the knight wants to go to, right? So the knight is also a very powerful piece. So um, I think it's good when you opening with the knight, you put it in a position where it can guard so many squares. What do I mean by that? Okay, I mean that if you move your knight on the B file, and you put it on the C file right here, do you see what happened here? The knight jumped this pawn, then it went to um, another square, right? That's another square, and then it can move either left or right on those opposing squares. It moves in an L formation. Understand? This is also the same if, let's say, this piece, right? Let's say when your opponent you play d45, right? Then now you want to move out your knight. As you can see now, the knight has 3 options. It can move here, or it can move here, right? It does not mean that it has to go forward all the time. It can move back, right? This is one of the pieces, especially these pieces that are back here, right? You can move it back if ever you are under attack and then you need to defend your king or your queen or the other they're trying to capture from you. You can now move it back, right? So the knight was going to be able to move to this square, right? And same for the black knight, you see? Move there, there, or there, right? Playing this game obviously is going to need a lot of practice, right? Especially with understanding how the move, right? Which is very, very important, very crucial, so that you can be able to combine these pieces so that you can create an attack and actually play the objective of the game, which is to capture the opponent's king, right? Okay, then we're going to move the second last piece, which is going to be the bishop. The bishop has two, every player will have two opposite bishops. You have light square bishop and a dark square bishop. Just like its color, its starting color, it can only move on those squares, but only if the diagonal is open. Right? So if the diagonal is blocked by an opponent's piece, the bishop can capture that piece. Right? If it is not blocked and the file is open, the diagonal file, the bishop can move freely. So what do I mean? So again, let's bring out c4, then black decides to play, let's say e4, black plays e5. What we have done here now, again for educational purposes, is we have allowed the black square bishop and we have opened its diagonal, right? The light square bishop, we've opened its diagonal, right? So now let's move the light square bishop. Let's move the black square bishop. And we're gonna put it here, right? Then white, black, sorry, can do the same and move its light square bishop here, attacking the queen. Remember what I said? If the diagonal of the bishops, if the diagonal is open, there's not your piece there. But if there is an opponent's piece, the bishop can then choose to capture that piece. Right? Same with your opponent can choose to capture that piece. Right? This is how now the bishops move. You see, they move according to the starting square in which they started. So there is a black square bishop and there is a white square bishop. Okay. Then we're going to move on to the most powerful piece on the board, which was the queen. So the queen pretty much has every ability except for knight's ability, right? So let's say I bring out my queen and I bring it here, right? So the queen can move whichever way it likes, right? The only thing that it cannot do, it cannot move like a knight. So it cannot jump over pieces and go to the left or the right square in that L formation that the knight can move in. But it can choose to move in any direction. As you can see there on the board, the endless possibilities of which square now the queen can choose to go to. This is your most powerful piece on your board, and you need to protect it with your life, and you need to be able to find out how to use it. We were going on a point module, it will be worth 9 points, right? Which is a lot because when you're playing beginner level chess, some games, when the time has run out, they actually count the material in terms of points, right? And then you could win because you had more material on the board or you captured more of your opponent's material in points. So, as you can see there on the board, the queen then can choose to capture on h7, right? Capturing that pawn, right? The queen could choose to move to this file right here. Sorry about that. I just experienced load shedding, so I had to put my laptop on the backup charger. So, as I was saying, we're on the queen. The queen can choose to move in whichever direction it wants, just as you can see as those squares light up on the board. Okay. The last piece we want to get to is the king, right? So the king can only move one square at a time. It is most probably your weakest piece on the board, right? And your objective is to protect the king, right? You have to protect the king. The king, or the objective of the game, is for you to capture your opponent's king. At the same time, you need to protect your king from being captured by the opponent, right? So The king can only move one square. You can see only one square. The king cannot jump squares. The king cannot capture its own pieces, right? Correctly, you cannot capture your own piece in chess. And yeah, that's pretty much how the king moves. Okay, so how the game ends is when your opponent's king will be captured in next move. Yeah, I think I've explained it. Yeah, I think that's simple. That's simple English right there. So let's say you were playing a game, right? Then you choose, okay, I'm gonna play four. Your opponent says, okay, I'm gonna play right. Then you play knight e4, right? Your opponent brings out its dark square bishop, puts it on c5, right? Let's say you choose to play um, h3, right? Your opponent then plays queen to, right? And let's say you choose to play pawn to d3. Then your opponent chooses to capture this pawn here. Now, as soon as the king is under attack, the first thing that happens is you say check, right? This means that, okay, if you do not move your king, I am going to capture it in my next move. You need to give your opponent time to actually move the king. But when the opponent cannot move anywhere with the king or cannot capture the attacker of the king, then the game is over. And you have reached a checkmate. I don't know if you understand that. Please comment below if you understand this part of the game, if I have explained it correctly. If not, I will respond to your comment and your question and try and clarify uh, how the game has stopped in this manner. But like I say again, first move you're gonna say is check. If there is a check, you can give a check, right? Then what you are initiating or what you are communicating to your opponent is that I am going to capture your king within the next move, right? If you do not move your king, I'm going to capture it. Then your opponent maybe uh, does another move, right? Or moves your king. If you can finish the game, then you would finish it and then capture a piece like just what how we did here. Okay, capturing the board and then making sure that okay, the opponent's king cannot move. Thus, the game is over. You have checkmated your opponent. I think that's pretty clear and clear to understand, right? How the game ends at this point, at this particular point. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to show you a simple opening for you to memorize and understand so that when you do start playing, you do not fall for traps like the what is illustrated here. And I'm just going to give some lessons on like some basic lessons on how you should actually open and why it would be best and it would be easier for you once you open in that manner. Easier for you to learn more moves and to play more strategic. Okay, just like with everything, every game, everything that you learn, there is basic. I remember I was once a skateboarder, so basics to doing skateboarding or understanding how to do all these crazy moves that you guys see when you watch X Games is understanding the basics. How to pop the board, how to jump rear, jump front, how to spin the board, what to do with your legs, the of gravity thing, how to land so that the board doesn't break in half. You understand? So also within chess, there is basics principles, and this is where grandmasters, thrive. They teach uh, grandmasters these basic principles when they're very young, and they drill it into them so that you never make a mistake, a beginner's mistake. This increases their competitive nature, and it increases the capacity at which they can play, right? Because chess is like a tree, you know. The tree, it has roots, right? Stem, and then it has branches, right? So now, in the beginning, or when you play with beginners, there is normal responses, beginner responses. What do I mean by that? I'll show you right now. When I play e4, right? Now what I am doing, I am putting my crown in the center, right? I'm controlling both the d5 and the f5, the square. Right? So what black can do is also come for the center, right? Coming for the center, standing their crown. The center in the beginning of the match, is very, very important. This is where you can bring out your pieces so that you can have a better attacking formation for them once all the pieces have been activated and have been developed, right? So what you can do next, always try and put out your pieces in a position where they could have more squares or more room to move around when it is time for your next move, right? Okay, I'm gonna just defend my pawn there on e5, right? And let's say black chooses to bring out the other knight. I then also choose to bring out my knight. Black then chooses to bishop. And then this is another important move. Right? Now, the king and the rook, if they have not moved, they can do what we call as castling. This is very important because castling puts your king in safety, so that you do not have to worry about it as you are busy developing your pieces. You know, Black king can also castle. Yes, black king can also castle. You have castles. You see these 3 points right here. They act like a barrier. Also, your knight here. Bishop can also come this side. Try and move around and get to the square so that you are not worried about your opponent capturing your king and the game. So, the basics of chess has been covered in the first part of the video. This is the second part. This is an opening, or the opening principles that you can try and apply in order to start playing the game. Try and control the center. Try and develop your pieces early as much as you can, and then try and castle your king. Make sure that this pawn structure on the side at which you are castling, the pawn structure is not messed up, so that you can have a nice defense for your king, right? Then your king will be in safety. I think we have covered all that needs to be covered about the basics of chess. What I'm going to do in the next video, I'm going to show you the first couple of openings that you try and learn and study so that you can start developing your game and maybe get ready for playing your first chess tournament. I urge you guys to like and subscribe. Please support the channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next.